Hey everybody, this is going to be a very rambly video, even ramblier than usual. This is just me talking for a while about something which I recently discovered about a Sierra adventure, which is a very minor detail, but which I thought was interesting. Personally, I thought it was interesting, and you might find it interesting if you find very minor details interesting, otherwise you probably won't find it interesting. So, what is this all about? Well, it's about the first Quest for Glory game, which was originally called Heroes Quest, and I have a copy of it here. So this is a copy of the original Heroes Quest, and what's important is not just that it's still called Heroes Quest as opposed to Quest for Glory. What's important, well, let me start the game first. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make my character a magic user. Yeah, let's do a magic user here. And I guess I'll just call myself Late Blight, why not? And what I'll want to do, let's see, what are we doing here? For this, I'll want a decent amount of magic, and I guess probably strength. And that's probably all we need. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So, just before we do anything else, let me go ahead and show you the about information. So yeah, you see down here it is version 1.000. So this is, I assume, the very first release of the game. And that's relevant to what I'm going to talk about. Usually, I haven't been very interested in versions of Sierra Adventures because Sierra Adventures usually don't have problems with bugs or crashing or things like that. They were usually reasonably well debugged and tested before release for the most part. I remember one exception was in King's Quest IV. It was kind of one of the most infamous bugs in a Sierra adventure, I think. King's Quest IV had this bug where I think the game would crash or freeze when you were trying to swim into the waterfall. Remember that? You remember in King's Quest IV there's that scene where you have to we know when you put on the frog crown and then you swim through the waterfall to get to the Troll's Cave. I think there was a problem with the first release of that game where it would crash when you tried to do that, when you tried to swim under the waterfall. And it became a big thing, and Sierra would send free patches to registered users of the game or owners of the game because you had to get a patch from them to fix it. It was a problem in the game. Other than that, I'm not aware of any really serious bugs or technical problems that required like an upgrade to a different version of Zero Adventure. I guess the other main exception was Quest for Glory 4. Quest for Glory 4, of course, was notorious for several game-breaking, crashing bugs on its first release, but that was a later game. I mean, Quest for Glory 4 was already like the early to mid 1990s. That was already when Sierra was starting to just hit its peak, and adventure games as well, and the whole PC industry in general. I mean, that was a few years before Windows 95 came along and ruined everything, ruined the entire planet. But that's another story. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, there are a couple of instances like that where versions make a difference, but mostly I haven't been too concerned with the different versions of what game I have. Obviously, versions make a difference. Obviously, if Sierra released a new version of a game, obviously they must have changed something. There must be something that was different, but I'm usually not aware of what it was, and I usually don't care what version of the game I happen to have. But I recently discovered something here that's interesting. So again, this is version 1 of the game, as you can see, as you saw. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's see. So I'm a magic user. And what spells? Okay, I start off with just the zap spell in this game. That's right. So what I'll want to do then is go ahead and buy the open spell. There we go. So now we've got the open spell. Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and do this. Let me go ahead and... Oh, that music. It's so good. It's been a long time since I've really seen something quite as wonderful as the first Quest for Glory game, or Heroes Quest, or whatever. So, Right. So you remember this part here, if you've played this game, you probably remember this part. It's one of the major parts of the game. This is basically getting into the end game, right? This is beyond that door is the Brigands Camp where you start the end game. So what I'll do, since I don't have the key or anything like that, and I don't have any pick lock ability, I don't think. Yeah, pick lock is at 0. I'll go ahead and just cast the open spell. Right, which... Okay, so my spell's not powerful enough to open it. So it unlocked the door, but it didn't open it. That's fine. Let's go ahead and push on the rock. That's why, there we go. That's why I cranked up my strength so that I could, so I'd be able to do that. Of course, if you're not strong enough, you can just keep trying it, and your character will actually get stronger as he tries it, and eventually you'll be able to do it. But anyway, okay, so now you might remember what you're supposed to do here is say hide and go seek. And you spell it like that. I don't know why it's spelled like this. This is just how the game spells it. So, yeah, so you type in hide and go seek, and it says you hear the sound of someone or something moving deeper into the cave to let you pass. And now, if we step inside the cave, you can see there's nobody here, and we can step into the cave unimpeded. Okay, so I'll go ahead and quit. So it's I recently, I think this was... Actually, this was already last year, so I guess this was already a while ago. But, late last year, I just kind of on a whim, I played through this game again. I played through the first Heroes Quest game again. And when I tried doing that, when I tried saying hide and go seek, it didn't work. And I thought, well, what's the deal with that? Why did it not work? So... What ended up happening? Let me show you what's actually going on here. So what I have here is a more recent version of the same game. So let's go ahead and run this. And yeah, that legal notice. And let's go ahead and start a new character. Let's do the same thing again. Let's do a magic user. And once again, I'll give myself a bunch of strength, and then I'll add a bunch to magic. Okay, that should be fine. Let's go ahead and start the game. And I'll do exactly the same thing as last time. Go ahead and head into the magic shop and buy the open spell. Open door. All right, so let's go ahead and get away from that brigand. And we'll come down here. Go through the same routine again. I'll slow down the game just a touch. Okay, so let's try it again. So we go ahead and cast the open spell. Yep, and once again, we have to push on the rock. And now let's say hide and go seek again. And notice the message is different. It says, okay, you say hide and go seek. Now, you'd think that might have the same effect. But let's watch what happens. And I actually forgot to look at the version, but as you might have seen in the directory name. So this is version 1.102, as you can see. Obviously, it's a more recent version of the game, so something must have been changed in this version, right? And Sierra, as far as I know, didn't normally release complete change logs, so they wouldn't tell you exactly what had been changed in the game. But yeah, obviously, you imagine they must have changed something because of a new version, right? So I said hide and go seek. Let's go into the cave, and you'll see the troll is still there. He does not clear out when you say hide and go seek in this version of the game. So I'm going to go ahead and quit here. And I'm just going to explain now exactly what happened. There's probably nothing more to see in this video. I'll explain what I found out. It turns out that in later versions of this game, they patched, making air quotes, like, quote, patched, unquote, the game, so that you can't say hide and go seek and have it work until you're supposed to know about it. Again, you can put supposed in quotation marks. So what's supposed to happen, of course, if you play the game properly, is you're supposed to listen in to those two guys talking to each other. It's Bruno and the bandit they're talking to, or the brigand or whatever, they're talking to each other. You overhear the conversation, and then during the conversation they say, yeah, remember to say the code word, it's hide and go seek. They changed this version of the game so that if you haven't heard that conversation yet, then saying hide and go seek doesn't work. Now, That it's a little bit illogical in my opinion because it would be logical to say you don't know that the code word is hide and go seek. But remember, if you saw the message that it says, okay, you say hide and go seek. Well, if you actually say that, it should work regardless of whether the troll knows that you know about it or not. I mean, what does the troll know? If he just hears somebody say hide and go seek, it shouldn't make any difference to him. But yeah, this is an interesting kind of it's sort of one of these questions about how adventure games work or how they're supposed to work or how player knowledge is supposed to impact the game. But yeah, when I was playing this game last year, I said hide and go seek before I was supposed to know about it, just because I wanted to get into the cave and raid the troll cave because there's that gold hidden in his cave on the screen to the left, and it didn't work. And I could have sworn that you could say hide and go seek before hearing the brigand's conversation. And I thought, what is this? Is this the Mandela effect? You know how they call, it's like a false memory. People sometimes develop false memories, and it's kind of called the Mandela effect as a sort of slang term. Basically, people are sure that they remember something, but they remember it falsely, and in fact, it's a completely false memory. I've had this for most of my life with the first King's Quest. So the original King's Quest, the very first King's Quest game, was a game played not only by me but by most of the people in my family, and we somehow got the idea when I was a kid and we were playing the game when I was just a few years old that the castle doors wouldn't open if you typed open door or open doors. You had to type open the door. Now, I remember this as a child, and everyone in my family remembers this as well, as far as I know. Even my grandmother. My grandmother was actually a huge fan of all the King's Quest games. I remember even when she was like dying, like literally on her deathbed a few days before she died, she was still saying, "I can't believe you had to type open the door. I can't believe the game wouldn't recognize just open door." So this was like a legend in our family for most of my life. But I tested it later in life. I actually just tested it a few days ago before making this video, and typing open door does work in King's Quest 1. So I don't know how we got it into our heads that you have to type open the door. Is that something that Sierra changed in a later version of the game? Or is it just a completely false memory? Or we're thinking of something else? I don't know. I played the game originally on the Apple II GS, and I actually got an Apple II GS version of the game and tested it on that. And open door works. You don't have to type open the door. It's possible that I had a different version of the game. The Apple II GS version, which I have, has no version number on it. So maybe Sierra did modify the version of the game, but they didn't put versions on the games back then. So who knows? Maybe that's a false memory. But anyway, so I thought this was something like that. I thought, okay, I must have remembered it wrong. I thought that you could say hide and go seek before going into the cave, but it didn't work. And I thought, okay, well, no big deal. I must have wrongly remembered it. But no, now you can see it's actually something they changed about the game. And the reason I found this out is because I recently watched a speed run of this game. And the guy who does the speed run is great. He finishes the whole game in under 5 minutes. It's pretty crazy to watch. I'll probably, what I should do is put a link to his speed run I'll put a link to the speed run in the description to this video, the speed run where I found this out. And he explicitly mentions during the speedrun, he says, I'm playing version 1.0 of this game, the original version, because in this version, I can get into the cave by saying hide and go seek without having to have heard the conversation between the two guys. Otherwise, you'd have to take the time to, hear that conversation. That's a much longer process. So he's really good. He really strips down the game to the essentials and just pretty much skips over everything. I mean, he actually makes the only thing he really has to do to properly win the game is make the Dispel Potion. But he actually gets all the ingredients for the Dispel Potion and gets it done and goes into the cave and wins the game in less than 5 minutes. It's pretty crazy. Like I said, I'll put a link to the description in this video. But that's it. Yeah, that's something that they changed. And I thought that was really interesting because it's very rare that I will notice any changes that Sierra has made to newer versions of their adventures. So that's it. That's all I had to say. I just wanted to show that off and show the difference. And I wanted to ask you folks, since many of you folks will be big fans of Sierra games and have played many Sierra games throughout your lives probably, have you ever seen anything? Are you aware of any other changes like that which Sierra might have made to their games? Any changes which Sierra made to a later version of a game that had some kind of effect like that on the gameplay, had some noticeable effect where a puzzle worked a little differently or where the game behaved a little differently under certain circumstances? I'd be curious to know because, like I said, again, I'm mostly not aware of changes that Sierra made in different versions of the games, and it would be interesting to see what they changed, what their testers or developers kind of did for patches or changes to games in later versions of games. So anyway, that's it for me. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope that it was mildly interesting. Sorry that I talked too much as usual. But again, thanks to everyone. I will talk to you folks later. Bye-bye for now.